Put a lien on my neighbors for not being able to pay an illegal special assessment? I'll put a lien on your $20 million mansion, by usergear01. This may be the most petty thing I have ever done in my life. I'm a pretty petty person, and I also believe in malicious compliance, but this takes the cake. So I bought a condo in a building in a large city in the US about 2.5 years ago. The building has an HOA that we all pay into monthly. Since I've lived here, the building has rapidly deteriorated and we have all hired an attorney for a class action style lawsuit. I'm talking broken elevators, broken rooftop AC units, the pool was empty for 4 months during the summer, etc. The people in the building are great though, and we are a friendly bunch. Last year, I took the HOA to small claims court because they failed to provide financial documents that show us how our fees are being spent. As this is a legal requirement for all HOAs in my state, I won the case and was awarded the $30 filing fee plus $1, symbolic. I sued for documents, not money. The fact that they can't provide the docs as they are legally required to do is a separate issue among others, including possible criming that we've hired the attorneys for. I have asked the HOA to pay the $31 to me, and the president of the HOA wants to either meet me somewhere private to give it to me, or he wants to mail me a satisfaction of judgment form, have me sign it, and mail it back to him, and then he will mail me a check. No to both. 3 days after I won the case, the HOA announced that they were going to charge us all a special assessment of about $1,000 each and an increase in our monthly dues of 10%. In my state, a membership vote gets triggered if you charge a special assessment that brings the building more than 5% its yearly income, which means 51% of the owners must approve of the assessment for it to take effect. As this $$ is about 20% of our yearly income, a vote should have taken place. When we asked about this vote, the HOA said that it was being made under an emergency clause, which means that the membership vote doesn't have to take place. The emergency? Fixing the elevator that broke on December 24, 2021. The spirit of the emergency clause is for things like fire, earthquake, flood, etc., not a broken elevator that has been broken for a year already. When there was understandable pushback, the HOA sent out a little email stating that anyone who didn't pay the assessment would have a lien put on their unit. The liens came down yesterday to those that couldn't pay $1,000 on short notice. Our attorneys told us that even though the money is in dispute, we still have to pay it, and I did pay mine, but we also have a lot of retirees/lower income people in the building. The HOA president's house is currently on the market for $20 million. I just got back from the courthouse where I filed a $31 lien against it for $140, clouding its title. It's a matter of principle, not money. Now the title can't change hands until he pays me my $31 and I am perfectly within my rights to collect on a judgment owed, smiley face. Edit, I will for sure keep you guys updated after the attorneys do their thing. That might be a story for pettyrevenge though. Edit 2, some confusion here. I initially filed the small claim with the HOA as defendant. The small claim judge determined that was incorrect and said I should sue the individual as the president of the HOA and made me amend the case. Therefore, the defendant in the whole case was the one individual person, and therefore he is responsible for the $31 and I can exercise my right to put a lien on his home in my effort to collect. I can only put a lien against the defendant, and the defendant is a person. I cannot put a lien against the HOA because they were not the defendant in the case. The courts already determined that the person owes me money. I don't need to continue to argue a case I've already won. Edit 3, wow, this blew up. And with that so many PPL accusing me of lying because they don't understand our legal system. Thank you to all who are supporting my efforts. We hope to have these PPL overthrown and in prison hopefully by the end of the year. We've turned over all we have to our attorneys who are the best HOA attorneys in LA. We will get these people. Further reading on what else these slumlords are dealing with, https://globalproperty.com/2022/08/10/ lawsuit Barry Shai didn't disclose defects in 400M deal / Final edit. I hope, if you live in Los Angeles County and have a money judgment against someone, learn how to collect here, https://selfhelp.courts.ca/gov/small-claims/after-trial/collect money. If you scroll down and choose from their property, all you have to do is fill out the abstract of judgment, get it filed at the courthouse, $40, then get it recorded, $100, for a lien against a property to take effect. Final edit, got this email this morning. https://imageshock.com/i/nextcape2j Sorry, my first link to it was bad. Former employee turns me in for fraud, and lists his father/lawyer to push it, by user fee is 79. I was a public employee for many years. I had a middle management role for about 20 years. I reported to a department head, who reported to the mayor. I had a small staff, typically 5 to 10 people who were mostly part-time. They rotated every few years and I tried my best to make their time with me valuable. I helped them pad out their resumes, paid for trainings and more. Tim was initially a decent employee but quickly decided he was the greatest employee of all time. His overconfidence often led to mistakes or being overextended and he needed bailed out. He was good at basic tasks but had a hard time with math, grammar, and interacting with adults. Part of my job was seeking federal grants for small infrastructure projects. Think adding ADA benches to nature trails and curb cuts on old sidewalks or bridges on walking paths across ditches. I would write the grants and specs. The small staff would help administer the grant. Sometimes they would do the work. Sometimes they would oversee contractors. The grants were extremely clear and included a matching component. Sometimes we would add cash or equipment time or staff time. Sometimes we would have volunteer organizations match with labor. We were doing a bridge grant and I put the employee Tim in charge. It was phase 3 of 3 and we had a lot of experience. There were 21 bridges we were replacing in batches of 7. Tim just had to keep the process going with volunteer match labor hours. The process was practically automatic. All he had to do was show up with materials and stay out of the way. He did an adequate job, barely. I had to keep him on track to stay in spec. We are spending money to improve water quality. He wanted to improve recreation. We sent a lot of emails and texts about it. The department also used project codes to track grant spending. Each grant had a code and it was very easy to code all the time and materials though the accounting department. The volunteers signed logs each day and the process was pretty tidy. That fall Tim continued to struggle with basic tasks and eventually demanded a promotion for his outstanding work. He did not meet the very clear requirements for a promotion, government requirements, through his own laziness despite being given opportunities to become qualified. Eventually he became intentionally negligent and put himself and others in danger. I called him into the office after an egregious incident and offered him the opportunity to resign or be fired. Resigning means he could be eligible for rehire in a different department. Fired means he is blacklisted from the city. He refused to resign and so I terminated him. He seemed shocked. I think he thought it was a bluff or scare tactic. He thought he was a critical cog in the machine. But he was a thorn in my side. His dad is a well-known local attorney. I had pulled Tim's state criminal record and on close inspection it was clear Daddy was bailing him out throughout life. Assault charges dropped. DUI pled to a traffic violation. Possession pled to an infraction. Tim decided to come after me. His first move was to call the federal division that oversees my grants and report fraud. They launched an investigation. My records were 1000% immaculate. They called him into a meeting and his proof of fraud was that he felt that the bridges should have been a lower priority and the money would be better spent elsewhere, so the fraud was misuse of funds. But the grant specs were followed precisely by him. He had tried to divert funds and I had stopped him. I had written evidence. The project he had accused on was the literal poster child for success and was included in a slideshow to the legislature on the success of the grant program. The feds and city powers were livid for wasting time. I had reams of perfect documentation. He was yelled out of the building. Then he filed a wrongful termination suit. He told his dad about the apparent mistreatment and his dad filed. I contacted the city attorney and dumped hundreds of pages of documentation, with a summary, in his email. I was in City Hall when Daddy attorney came slinking out of the legal department apologizing for his idiot son. I heard from a mutual friend Daddy gave Tim a thorough reaming and withdrew the financial support that had allowed him to live on part-time work. He is doing better today, but right around that time his wife discovered his ongoing affair, the mistress got pregnant and things got rough. You can't use water bottle to reserve gym machine, okay bet, by user it's it a bitch. Asterisk posted on another sub and was told this might be a better fit. I have been going to this gym for about 6 months now and I always try to avoid going past 7 p.m. because the vibes are off. However, yesterday, I had no choice but to go around 8 p.m. To my surprise, the gym was almost empty, maybe because it was Friday. Anyways, I took advantage of the empty gym to do 5 sets of sled pushes. I don't like doing them when the gym is crowded because people walk through the track all the time and that annoys me. I started doing my 40-meter sled pushes, and after every round, I'd put my water bottle on top of the weights while I sat on the floor next to it to rest. The water bottle being there and me being maybe 2 to 3 feet away is enough to let other people know that the sled is currently in use. However, even if you're not sure, seeing the bottle should at least prompt you to look around and see who it belongs to. I was sitting on the floor resting before my last set when a woman walked to the sled and kicked my water bottle, a hydro flask. I took my headphones off, and the conversation went like this. Me, hi, excuse me. That's my water bottle, I'm using the sled at the moment. As friendly as I could be. Her, you're not using it, are you? You're sitting on the floor. Me, I'm in between sets, which is why my bottle is there so people know it's in use. Her, well, you can't use a water bottle to reserve a machine that you're clearly not using. At this point, I got up and stood between her and the sled. Me, as I said, I was resting between sets. I've not finished my sets yet. But by all means, feel free to wait until I'm finished. I then started pushing the sled one way and then back. When I got to the start position again, she started walking towards the sled, thinking I was going to walk away. Oh, baby no. Here is where the MC started. I sat on the sled weights while resting because, as she said, I couldn't use my water bottle to show people it was in use, so I was just going to use my body. She got really angry and said. Her, what are you doing? Me, resting between sets. I know now I can't reserve the machine with a water bottle, so I'm just going to sit here while I rest. Her, this is unbelievable. How many sets do you have left? Me, I don't know, a few more. I put my headphones back in and started another set. She was still waiting. So I did another set. She was still there. I did another. At this point, my legs felt like jelly, and I could barely finish my sets, but she was still waiting for the sled. It had been like 15 minutes, and I forced myself to keep going out of spite. She looked so angry and was trying to talk to me, but I had my headphones in and blasting music, ignoring her. I ended up doing 12 extra sets until she walked away. I started unloading my weights from the sled when a group of 3 gym brothers asked if I was done. I said yes and that it was all theirs. As I walked away towards the changing room, she saw me and walked towards the sled track just to find the 3 gym brothers loading it. I could see the disappointment in her face when she saw them. The best part is that if she had been a decent human being, I would have been done in a minute and she could have had the sled all to herself, because I only had one set left originally. Edit, the bottle was a hydro flask, not a single-use plastic one. And I was on a timed 60-second rest between sets, not camped at machine. Some people just need to be taught better manners. I'm happy to help, by user JJM. This happened last week and I only now have time to type it out. One of my friend, Leah celebrated her 30th birthday. Due to personal reason, she went all out for it. Venue was amazing, food was great, decor was tasteful, good music and guests were asked to wear something fancy. The day of, everything was going well until someone dropped to one knee. You already know where this is going. Someone actually proposed. At someone else's birthday. I was giving the couple the side eye but I thought maybe this was planned. Maybe Leah knows because who would be bold enough to do this without the host's permission. So I went to find Leah. She was sitting at a table surrounded by a few friends looking a mixture of angry and sad. I asked if she knew this was going to happen. She gave a small head shake and said, well, there's nothing for me to do now, right? I decided then, she doesn't have to do anything. I'll do it for her. I walked up to the happy couple, who at this point was surrounded by a few people who was congratulating them, the audacity. To give credit to some people, a lot of the guests was looking awkward, bewildered and had a face of not interested to be involved in the drama. So not everyone lost their common sense it seems. Back to the story, I walked up to her, asked to see the ring. She was all smiley holding out her hand and I made a show of looking at it closely then loudly said, well, at least the ring is decent. Immediately, smile gone. She looked shocked and asked what's that supposed to mean. Again, loudly I told her, girl, you got proposed at someone's celebration which he didn't plan or pay for. You're not even worth that much. I'm just glad he didn't cheapen out on the ring. Then I turned around, walked to a nearby friend and still in a voice that I want everyone to hear said how tacky and embarrassing they are. Like a switch, everyone then started whispering at them. Some that I heard includes, who does that at someone's birthday, man can't even plan an event and had to mooch of someone else, if I was her, I wouldn't have said yes. They left quiet fast after that, and while the party did end kind of awkward, Leah did looked better at the end, so I don't feel guilty. As I'm not familiar with the couple I only heard second and third hand story about what has been happening, so not sure about the validity. Apparently she has been complaining how her proposals ruin and she can't even have a second one because she's traumatized by the first one. Thankfully no one is giving her time, instead she's getting even more ridiculed. The next rumor I heard, the couple, have been fighting. The proposal was supposedly her idea and he just went along with it. Now, he's getting called pathetic and cheap. I have no sympathy for someone that stupid. So moral here, people, have some class and learn better manners. Won't close your pinging truck door? Hope you don't mind my watering, by user Jebrennan. A commercial repair person was working on something in the parking lot beside the side of my backyard. He left his keys in the ignition and the door opened so that the opening was pointed at the side of my place. My nice summer day with windows open was mangled by a constant pinging. He was not using the open door to do anything. After about 1/2 hour, I asked him if he could close his door to stop the noise. He would not and was surly at the suggestion that I would even make such a request. The pinging went on. I asked again, maybe not so nicely. Nope. After another half hour, I decided that it was time to water my garden. I got the sprinkler and set it in a new location that would throw a little water over the fence and onto his open door. It wasn't much, but as the pinging continued, it got wetter and wetter. It was hardly noticeable. Knowing the pinging was being offset with some petty revenge made it easier to deal with as it continued. I happened to be in the kitchen to see the nasty look he sent my way when he returned to the open door. It still brings a little satisfaction for me to know he could have prevented it by not being an asshole.